Hey everybody, today I'm in Indianapolis and I'm in one of the most well-known neighborhoods, and it's actually one of the 7 cultural districts of Indianapolis. It's a place where you can live. It's also a place where you can come to do a number of different things, especially when it comes to restaurants and nightlife. I'm in Broad Ripple, and specifically in Broad Ripple Village. So in this video, we're gonna explore it a little bit, see what it's all about, see what it would be like to visit here and hang out here and just get the overall vibe, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Jason Compton with the Compton Home Group. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about places like Broad Ripple in Indianapolis or any of the surrounding metro, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the little bell so you're notified every time we do a new video. Now we have people reaching out to us from all over the country with questions about Indianapolis and specific neighborhoods like Broad Ripple in Indianapolis, plus the cities that surround Indianapolis. So if you have any questions at all, then don't hesitate to reach out any way that you know how. We'll always have your back with those questions, and we'll certainly have your back whenever it comes time for you to make your move to the Indy Metro. Okay, like I said, today I'm in Broad Ripple, which is a neighborhood in Indianapolis, and it's also one of the cultural districts of Indianapolis, one of the 7. And more specifically though, I'm in Broad Ripple Village. So if you talk to anybody that lives in Indianapolis or anywhere surrounding Indianapolis, they're probably gonna know where Broad Ripple is and what Broad Ripple is. And usually when people think about Broad Ripple, they'll think about certainly nightlife, and they'll think about restaurants and just kind of a funky neighborhood that has a lot going on culturally. And in fact, I'm gonna step out here into the sun a little bit, but I'm standing right in front of the Vogue Theater, which is definitely one of the landmark places in Broad Ripple Village, where you can have, of course, tons of nightlife there, but lots and lots of concerts. It's one of the coolest places to actually see a show. It's not huge, and they get some pretty big acts in there, at least some startup acts. Just like, for example, if you're a John Mayer fan, well, that's one of the first places he played here in Indianapolis. And so they eventually, some people, turn out to be really big. So anyway, Vogue has those kinds of acts throughout the entire year. It's really a pretty sweet place to actually see a show. But I'm in Broad Ripple Village, and I'm right here actually at the corner of College and Broad Ripple Avenue, which is 62nd Street. And it's obviously a pretty busy intersection. I walk around the corner here a little bit, just to get away from some of the noise. But as I take a right and I'm moving east on Broad Ripple Avenue, you're really kind of getting into the village proper, going behind me. So when you're talking about nightlife or restaurants in Indianapolis, especially nightlife, this street right here is definitely where, I wouldn't say all of it happens, that's for sure, but some of it, and it's kind of the major hub for the nightlife. So there's some bars up here, there's some pubs, there are some restaurants, of course, too. The restaurants here, you can find a number of them that are excellent, really, really good. But you can get off of Broad Ripple Avenue here, 62nd Street, and you're gonna find probably some of your nicer restaurants and some of the really well-known ones in Indianapolis, especially for the foodies. Along this area, it's maybe not quite to that level, but you can still have some pretty good restaurants. Anyhow, I'm out here on a beautiful summer day, and it's actually a Friday afternoon, so as I'm walking here into the village, it's pretty crowded and happening. You got a lot of people off just the afternoon having lunch and just kind of hanging out down here, because there's a lot of places to do that. You got a lot of bars and restaurants with, like this tavern right here. They don't have their windows open right now, except for this one down here, but plenty of them that can have some semi-indoor, outdoor seating, a little bit like this. Plenty of options. But you gotta watch the traffic here a little bit. In my younger days, I certainly spent a lot more time down here in Broad Ripple Village, and I'm not ashamed to say that. I know there's a lot of people that have done that, and I'm looking across the street here at a couple of mainstays. Of course, a lot of these places some of them come and gone, but across the street there's a bar called Average Joe's and Rock Lobster and Mine Shaft. Oh my goodness, those things have been here for decades. I know, because I've been to those places when I was 21 years old and 47 now. So, you know, do the math. That's a long time. And I'm coming up here on Old Pro's Table, which we call OPTs, another mainstay. So anyway, these are some places that are probably for a little younger crowd. And I would say Broad Ripple Avenue right here, as far as Friday and Saturday night goes, it probably is for a slightly younger crowd. And I'll say that it's kind of for a slightly younger crowd, most of this strip right here. just because a lot of these places are open till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, I think. So, and I've certainly been out at that hour, and you'd be surprised at exactly how crowded and crazy this street really is after midnight. So at my age anymore, I don't stay out that late. It's really not for me, but you can catch myself, my wife, some of our friends, family. We still come to Broad Ripple, not to stay out past midnight, but we come to Broad Ripple because it is such a cool place and has so much going on. So now I've crossed the street and still walking east here on Broad Ripple Avenue, 62nd Street. I gotta watch where I'm going here. There's people around and cars flying in here to parking spots and all that. But like I said, there's a whole lot going on. So you got little tiny shops, not just restaurants and bars, but you have some very, very unique places to shop, vintage places. Walking by just a pretty cool vintage barber shop here right now. So plenty of places culturally to get into outside of just restaurants and bars. But one of the things that makes Broad Ripple Village unique, other than all of the stuff that it has going on here as far as what I've just mentioned, is that the Monon Trail comes right through Broad Ripple Village. It's a little bit loud right here. But as I'm walking up here to the east, there's actually a stoplight, and once you get past that stoplight, there's a crosswalk for the Monon Trail. So anybody that lives along the Monon Trail, whether that's really far south of here, because the Monon Trail goes really pretty much all the way downtown, at least you can get to downtown proper when you go along the Monon Trail, all the way north. So you can take the Monon Trail miles and miles north of here and actually go through, crossing the street again, go through Indianapolis and all the way north of Indianapolis into Carmel, through Carmel into Westfield, and through Westfield north of it. And there's plans to go well north of Westfield for the Monon Trail. So if you live all the way in Westfield or north of it, pretty sure right now at the north end of the Monon Trail, when you take it south all the way to downtown Indianapolis, it's something like 27 miles. And that's a long, long way, but there are no motorized vehicles, anything like that on the Monon Trail at all. And you'd have to run, walk, ride your bike or something like that, maybe a scooter. Now, my family's big into scooters, and come all the way down here. But you definitely could. And when I first moved to Indianapolis back in the 90s, I actually just kind of accidentally lived pretty close to the Monon Trail. And it was pretty cool discovering that and being able to hop on the bike and actually come down to places, you know, like this. And I was only maybe 30 blocks or so north of where I'm standing right now. And I'm coming up here on where that Monon Trail actually is, crossing Winthrop Avenue. Got a little bit of traffic here and a stoplight to wait on. There we go, you can cross now. But another cool thing about it is that, you know, if you're out here and got too much to drink, can't get an Uber or taxi, something like that, but you live along the Monon Trail, you could use the Monon Trail to get out of Broad Ripple. Or if you're just on a nice sunny day like today and you want to come down here for lunch or just goof off, then you can actually do that. And here is that path. So that's one of the cool features here just about Broad Ripple Village, is that it's connected to the Monon Trail, and there's so much along the Monon Trail, and it goes through so many neighborhoods and actually several different cities, and it connects everything. It's not the thing that makes Broad Ripple Village. That's definitely not the case, but it certainly helps, and it helps to get into Broad Ripple, it helps to get out of Broad Ripple, and it just helps to give it a little bit more of a pedestrian feel, because you can walk on this and get to some different areas of it. It's really a really cool feature. You're always gonna have people on the Monon Trail in Broad Ripple right in this particular area. It's almost always gonna be crowded, especially on a day like today. So given that Broad Ripple is so popular and there are so many people around here, the question is, can you live in Broad Ripple? And the answer is absolutely. You have all kinds of different options when you get into Broad Ripple, but it's gonna take a specific type of home living in Broad Ripple. So you can have townhomes, condos, and single family detached homes, but Broad Ripple is actually not a huge neighborhood. So just actually right over here over my shoulder is the White River, and the White River makes this real funny bend on the north end of Broad Ripple, and it's pretty much the border of it. And then when you get to the south, it doesn't go that far south. It's Kessler Avenue that is really the true defined southern border for Broad Ripple. When you go over to the west, you get to College Avenue, and then over on the east side is Keystone. So not a huge neighborhood north to south. It's a little bit wider east to west. You got a little bit more space that way. And living in Broad Ripple, the actual confines of Broad Ripple, you have some limited options. So when you get up towards this particular area of the village, you definitely have more limited options. as far as single family detached homes are concerned. But if you get into townhomes, condos, things like that, then you can get really, really close to basically the area that I'm walking. If you want to get into some of the homes that are in this particular area, then you got to go towards the south end of all of what we're in right now currently. And that's not that long. It's not that far to actually, well, it's not that big a walk if that's what you're concerned about, or a bike ride. Now, if the weather's kind of nasty, it might be a little bit different, but you're talking a block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, something like that, maybe a little bit further to get from your house to Broad Ripple Village itself. But out of that entire neighborhood, where Broad Ripple Village is really located, it's, get out of these people's way here, it's on the northwest side. So if you get on the northeast side of Broad Ripple, you're kind of cut off by the river to getting over here to the village. It can make it a little bit more difficult to get over here. But Broad Ripple Village, given it's on the northwest side, what is over on the northeast side? Actually, closer to the northeast side is where you get to most of the green space in Broad Ripple. So, while we're walking around this village, super, super cool, but it's obviously very busy too. So is there any place where you can actually spread out a little bit and have a little bit more green space? There are, of course, mature trees around here and some shade. Seems very established, and it is. Tons and tons of buildings out here, very, very old. They've been around a long time. But is there any open space in this neighborhood? And the answer to that is definitely yes. Broad Ripple Park, right on that northeast side, it borders the White River. You've got a dog park there, a pool, tennis courts. I think it's about 62 acres, so it's really a pretty big park for such a dense urban neighborhood where everything is really close together and very, very busy, very happening. That's a pretty cool little spot. In fact, Indianapolis, the public parks just overall are really pretty phenomenal. So Broad Ripple Park is actually just one of those parks that you can find really close by. So kind of a nice option for sure. But you can live very, very close to this. Of course, you have apartments too that you can rent and just walk out your door, and you're pretty much right here in the village. Super popular area, has been for years, decades. Like I said, even when I was coming here for the nightlife many, many years ago, it was very, very popular. And from what I know, it's not really changed in just the 25 or whatever years it's been since I made it such a popular place to go to for myself. I didn't make it popular by coming. I mean, it was popular and I was here quite often. That's for sure. Anyway, so Broad Ripple Village, if you have questions about a place like this, living near it, because Broad Ripple, the neighborhood itself, isn't the only neighborhood that's really close to Broad Ripple Village, where it would be a short bike ride, maybe a walk, certainly hardly a drive at all in the surrounding area. So if you have questions about that, reach out any way that you know how. And until the next one, we'll see you later.